Now let's talk about position D in this corner here. So do you think you should go up the line, up the middle, or cross court? You have 5 seconds. Chances are if you clicked on this video, you've probably lost a singles match before and you were kicking yourself saying, man, if I just knew the tactics behind singles, I could have won this match. Well, good thing you clicked on this video because I made it specific for you so that you can stop losing to your great grandma and start beating her as well as other high-level players. Number one is controlling the court. The player that controls the court is the player that's going to win the match. And the way that you control the court as the returner is going to be different than how you control the court as the server. How you control the court as the server is going to be different than how you control the court as the returner. And for this video in specific, I'm just going to be teaching you how to control the court as the server because otherwise you'll get information overload. But I'll be sure to do a future video on how to control the court as the returner as well. So in order to control the court as the server, you need to know 3 specific things. First of all, where you should hit the ball based off of where it lands on the court. Second of all, you need to know exactly how to execute on that shot consistently over and over and over again. And third of all, you need to know whether or not to drive that shot or drop that shot. So for starters, how can we know whether or not to drop the ball or drive the ball? There are 1,000 different times that we can drive and there are 1,000 different times that we can drop. I obviously can't teach you all of those times in this video, but there is a very basic principle that you can follow to know. We're gonna drive majority of the time in these 2 specific situations. When the ball is high, we're gonna drive majority of the time, and when our opponents haven't made it past mid-court. So they've returned the ball, they haven't quite made it up to mid-court yet. That's a great opportunity to drive as well. A combination of a high ball and them not making it to mid-court is a great time to drive. Obviously, we don't want to drive every single time when one of these 2 things happen, but the majority of the time, this is going to be a good play. Now, there are 2 specific situations in which we drop as well, and that's when our opponents have established at the kitchen line. We want to drop majority of the time, and when the ball is low, because when the ball is low, we can only hit upwards from there. Where it gets a little bit tricky is if the ball is low and our opponents are still back. They haven't made it past mid-court. That could be an opportunity to drive, and it also could be an opportunity to drop. And that's really where it comes down to just getting yourself into singles matches and figuring it out for yourself, seeing what works. Can you execute on those shots consistently? Because if you can execute on a drive when they're back at mid-court, even though it's low, then obviously you're the type of person that should drive that ball. If you can't consistently do that, then you're gonna be the type of person to drop that ball. But as a rule of thumb, if the ball is high, we're driving, or if our opponents haven't made it past mid-court off of their return, we're gonna be dropping the ball if the ball is low, or if our opponents have already established at the kitchen line. So now that we know when to drive or drop, we need to know where to hit the ball based off of where the returner hits the ball. So the way that I'm gonna teach you this is by splitting the court into 4 different positions. Position A is going to be in this corner, position B slightly to this side of the court, C, and position D. If you're lefty, it's totally flipped. A is going to be over here. But for everybody else, A is over here. Let's start by talking about A. So position A, I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to guess where you think the optimal place is for you to hit this return. Whether it's a drive or a drop doesn't matter right now. We already know how to decide between that. But what position? Are we going cross court, up the middle, or down the line? Okay, so the correct answer is cross court, and there are 3 reasons that we want to go cross court in this position. First of all, we're pulled off of the court. Since we're pulled off of the court, we're not in an optimal position at all. We have a whole lot of court to cover. So if I go cross court, it gives me a lot more time to get back to a more optimal position where I can cover both sides of the court. Second of all, it's over the shortest part of the net. So where the net is lowest is right at the center. So whenever I go cross court from out here, I'm going over the center of the net. So it makes it so that I hit the ball in more consistently. And third of all, since it takes more time, it also gets to my opponent a little bit later. So since it gets to my opponent a little bit later, I have more time to recover. Whereas if I hit this ball down the line, I might hit a winner down the line, I might not. If they get to that ball, the point's instantly over because it gets to them extremely soon. The net's also higher, but as soon as it gets to them, they can hit all to this open court. And if they even get it past mid-court, the point's instantly over. So whenever you're pulled out wide, we're going cross court majority of the time. Now let's talk about position B. Where do you think you should hit your shot when the returner hits to position B? You have 5 seconds. So from position B, it's a little bit of a trick question because there are 2 places that are going to be a great shot. The first great shot is going to be that cross court shot and getting that cross court angle. The only problem with that is that's obviously going to the forehand of our opponents majority of the time, but it is going over the lower part of the net. The second shot to hit is going to be straight down the line here. Okay, so both of those shots are very optimal. This shot, the net's gonna be slightly higher, but it's not too big of a factor from the position that we're at the center of the court. And that's mainly because we're already in an optimal position to defend wherever that ball goes. Whereas if we were over here, we'd be pulled off of the court. So if we went up the line, they'd hit a clean winner over there. So from this position, you really are open to deciding if you want to go down that line or if you want to go cross court. Now let's talk about position C. Where should you place the ball if you're standing at position C? And keep in mind, you're going to be hitting a backhand with this shot or running around your forehand. Okay, so since position C isn't on our forehand side, instead it's on our backhand side, a lot of people's backhands aren't as good as their forehands. If your backhand's better than your forehand, you're part of like the 0.0001%. So congratulations. But for the vast majority of us, this isn't gonna be an optimal shot for us. Instead, we're gonna wanna have to run around the shot to hit a forehand because this is gonna be more comfortable. So from this position, whether we're hitting a backhand or a forehand, the most optimal position is going to be cross court again. So we're going to that side of the court. That's gonna go to our opponent's backhand majority of the time. That's gonna be your changeup, but you don't wanna do that majority of the time. So now let's talk about position D in this corner here. So do you think you should go up the line, up the middle, or cross court? You have 5 seconds. You probably guessed it, but it's the exact same thing as A. Since we're pulled off the court, we want more time to get back onto the court. So we're gonna hit this ball cross court majority of the time. Also with that, since we're hitting cross court from this position, it's going to our opponent's backhand, which is great news for us majority of the time, except for that 0.0001% of the time that I talked about earlier. So then that brings us to the last part of the puzzle, and that is, can you execute these shots consistently from these 4 positions? Can you execute a drive consistently from position A? Can you execute a drop consistently? Same exact thing here. Can you execute a drive and a drop consistently to these 2 sides of the court from this position? So obviously you need to get out and practice this, and that's why I have a drill specifically for you so that you can practice hitting a drive and a drop from these 4 locations. So for this drill, both players are going to start across the net from each other on either baseline. Player 1 is going to serve the ball cross court, and player 2 is going to hit the ball back to any of those 4 positions and run to the net. It is now player 1's job to make the correct decision. Every time that they make the correct decision and hit to the correct spot, they receive a point. And anytime that they win the rally, they receive an additional point. Player 2 receives a point anytime that player 1 hits to the opposite side of the court that they were supposed to. Now, the only time that they don't receive this extra point is if player 1 hits a winner. For this drill, you can play to any score that you want. I like to play personally to 11 because it puts you in a real match situation, because majority of matches are going to be played to this score. Number 2, you need to learn how to get to the kitchen line effectively as the server. The key word there is effectively. We can get to the net ineffectively all we want, but we're never going to win the point. So that begs the question, how can we know when to move forward to the kitchen so that we can do it effectively? The way that we can know that is by answering 2 things. First of all, did we hit our shot to the most optimal position? If the answer to that is yes, then we've covered half the puzzle. The second question to ask yourself is, do I feel comfortable? So for that specific circumstance, I have served the ball. They've returned back to A. I'm pulled off the court. I hit this ball cross court. I do a little drop because I noticed that they have made it past mid-court. I do a drop, it lands at their feet. I'm not gonna do a drop and run forward from that position because I just reached to hit that ball. I'm now off the court. It's almost reached them now. I'm then going to follow where the ball is. So since the ball is landing there, I'm gonna be standing in this general position. But notice I haven't gone forward yet. So now based off of the ball that they give me from here, it's probably gonna be a shorter ball, a ball that they can't control as well, because they're gonna have to hit upwards on the ball. So now they hit this next shot down the line. I hit my next shot, cross court. I'm going cross court because I have more room to work with. That's my opportunity to move forward because I am comfortable, okay? I've hit to the optimal position now, and I am comfortable in this position. And then as they make contact with the ball, I'm stopping myself or doing a split step so that I can react faster. If you don't stop yourself, you're going to react slower to the ball. You're gonna have a ton of extra steps. You're gonna be all around slower. You need to make sure that you stop yourself as they make contact. I'm slightly towards this side. Let's say that they hit it this way. I can easily reach it. Let's say that they hit it up the line. I can more easily reach it because I'm on that side of the court. Their only option is going to become a dink angle, which I'll have time to get to hopefully. If not, they're probably gonna pop up the ball. But now I'm in an optimal position to get into that cat and mouse game. So then that brings us to step number 3, which is now that we know what to do, we need to actually execute on that. The only way that we can execute on that is if we get out and practice and do that drill that we talked about before and have tournament experience. The more experience that we have, the more confident that we're gonna be in an actual tournament. Now in a tournament, your mind's gonna go blank, especially for your first couple of tournaments. It's just gonna go blank and you can only rely on your muscle memory. That's why I use the Pickleball Drills app. It has hundreds of different drills that help you not only focus on the tactics of the game, but also get those repetitions in so that it literally becomes like eating your cereal every morning. It's the easiest thing to do. You know where to go without even having to think about it. So I'll link that at the top of the description of this video. Be sure to check it out. And if you want to learn my drilling routine that took me from losing a 4-0 tournament to winning a 5-0 tournament in the period of 3 months, check out this video right here. You're going to absolutely love it, and I'll see you on the next one.